Hey there, welcome back. This is Ray Higdon, and welcome to week number 2 of the Get Rich Blueprint. Now, first question, you know it's coming. Did you do the homework? Did you do the actual assignment for week number 1? Now, week number 1 was kind of a light week for you, but the assignment was pretty heavy. Okay, so that was just alley-ooping, kind of getting the whole program started. And now we're going to start getting into even more powerful stuff as we go through this 17-week really transformation. This isn't even a course, it's a transformation of you really getting in and understand there is a science, there is a blueprint for absolutely getting rich, and you are learning it in my opinion, the most powerful way, and that is through weekly disbursement and you taking this in bite-sized chunks and really running with it. And so let's jump into chapter 2. I do hope that you went through and did the homework. Keep in mind, this doesn't affect me. It only affects you and your life. So I hope that you did take it seriously and you showed up. A lot of life successes is just showing up, being there, stepping up to the batter's box, stepping into the basketball court, stepping up to the plate, and really making this thing happen. So let's jump in. And first of all, this week is called There Is a Science. There is a science. There is a blueprint to get rich. And so understand, there is a science of getting rich, and it is an exact science like algebra or arithmetic. There are certain laws which govern the process of acquiring riches. Once these laws are learned and obeyed by anyone, you will get rich with mathematical certainty. The ownership of money and property comes as a result of doing things in a certain way. Those who do things in this certain way, whether on purpose or accidentally, get rich. While those who do not do things in a certain way, no matter how hard they work or how able they are, remain poor. Let me ask you this question. How many people, and perhaps, unfortunately, it may be you listening to this right now. How many people do you know that are smart, that work hard, that do good things, but they're poor, they're broke? I'm reading a book, and I imagine I'm going to reference this book throughout this course, but I'm reading a powerful book that I highly suggest that you read as well, called How to Get Rich by Felix. And Felix really takes your mind on a journey and expands it, because he talks about how if you're $0 to $100,000 a year, you're poor. You're in poverty. I never really thought about it because, looking at this is a gentleman worth well over $400 million. And here he is laying it out exactly what it takes to be rich. Very powerful, very, very powerful information in that book. And so just think about it. Think about, the people that you may work with, the people that you know. How many people are that different from the people that you see that are crazily rich? There's usually not that much of a difference as far as personality, intelligence, athletic ability. There's usually not that much of a difference, but one person did it in a certain way while the other one did not, and that's why the difference. It is doing things in a certain way. And so understand that it's natural law that like causes always produce like effects. And therefore, any man or woman who learns to do things in this certain way will infallibly get rich. Now, getting rich is not a matter of environment. For if it were, all the people in certain neighborhoods would become wealthy. The people of one city would all be rich, while those of other towns would all be poor. Or the inhabitants of one state would roll in wealth, while those of an adjoining state would be in poverty. But everywhere, we see rich and poor living side by side in the same environment and often engaged in the same vocations. When two people are in the same locality, in the same business, and one gets rich while the other remains poor, it shows that getting rich is not a matter of environment. Some environments may be more favorable than others, but when two people in the same business, the same neighborhood, one gets rich, one gets poor, it indicates that getting rich is a result of doing things in a certain way. And further, the ability to do things in a certain way is not due solely to the possession of talent. For many people who have great talent remain poor, while others who have very little talent get rich. And again, you want to think upon your experiences. I know people that are really, really smart. They're really intelligent, but they're just barely getting by. They're barely making ends meet. They can barely afford to take a couple vacations a year. They can barely even do that. Okay, so understand that. So studying the people who have got rich, we find that they are an average lot in all respects, having no greater talents and abilities than anyone else. It is evident they do not get rich because they possess talents and abilities that other people do not have, but because they do things in a certain way. Getting rich is not the result of saving or thrift. Many very frugal people are poor, while free spenders often get rich. And again, to confirm all of these messages, think about your own experiences, the people that you know. I know people that are extremely frugal, and the whole millionaire next door concept. Well, I know a lot of people that are saving and saving and saving, and they're not really enjoying their time, their prime years, and hoping to retire rich. And guess what? That has not worked out for a whole lot of people. Okay, so really, just understand that is not equivalent of who actually gets rich. So, nor is getting rich due to doing things which others fail to do. For two people in the same business often do almost exactly the same thing, and one gets rich, other one goes bankrupt. From all these things, we must come to the conclusion that getting rich is the result of doing things in a certain way. If getting rich is the result of doing things in a certain way, and if like causes always produce like effects, then anyone who can do things in that way can become rich. And the whole matter is brought within the domain of exact science. The question arises whether this certain way may not be so difficult that only a few may follow it. Well, this can't be true. As we have seen so far as natural ability is concerned, talented people get rich, blockheads get rich, intellectually brilliant people get rich, and very stupid people get rich. Physically strong people get rich, and weak and sickly people get rich. Some degree of ability to think and understand is, of course, essential, but in so far natural ability is concerned, anyone who has sense enough to listen and understand these words can follow the get-rich blueprint. Also, we've seen that it's not a matter of environment. Location counts for something. One would not go to the heart of the Sahara and expect to do successful business. Getting rich involves the necessity of dealing with other people and of being where there are people to deal with. And if these people are inclined to deal in the way you want to deal, so much the better. But that is about as far as environment goes. If anyone else in your town can get rich, so can you. And if anybody else in your state can get rich, so can you. And, a lot of times I coach people on the phone. And these are people sometimes in my network marketing company, sometimes not, sometimes in my area, sometimes not. And I'll tell you, one phrase that I hear a lot, and we're going to come back to this. Okay, we're going to come back to this. It ties into our assignment when we do get to that portion. The phrase that I hear a lot is if only. If only. And if you have used that phrase in the past, or perhaps in the very near past, or even right now, maybe listening to these words this week had you saying if only. And there's a lot of different things that come after this phrase of if only that people use all the time. And if only is a justification of where you are. So people that use if only are justifying where they are, who they are, and why they got there. Be very, very careful with if only. If only is almost as powerful as the most powerful phrase, I am. I am, anything after that phrase is the most, it can be the most destructive or the most uplifting force of vocabulary that you possess. A lot of times I hear people use very negative things with I am. And they are anchoring that down within their subconscious and even their conscious mind. It has to come true when you say, I am. So let's touch back on if only. I've heard, I'm somebody that, 2.5 years ago, I was in personal foreclosure. I had 7 other real estate properties in foreclosure. I had very little money in the bank. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was paying my utility bills because that's the only thing we could, really afford to pay. And but yet, I'll hear if only. I'll have people tell me, well, Ray, if only I was down in Florida with you. People really dig network marketing down there. Well, Ray, if only I had a big network of people. Well, Ray, if only I knew internet marketing. Well, Ray, if only, and by the way, what you're doing is you're justifying where you are. And when you justify where you are, you guarantee to stay where you are. Grab onto that. Own it. Own that phrase. You don't want to be the if only person, because here's what I can guarantee you. There are people in the same situation as you that will have success. They will have success. So understand that, again, it is not a matter of choosing some particular business or profession. People get rich in every business and in every profession, while their next-door neighbors in the same vocation remain in poverty. It is true that you will do best in a business which you like and which is congenial to you, and if you have certain talents which are well developed, you will do best in a business which calls for the exercise of those talents. But getting rich is not dependent upon your engaging in some particular business, but upon your learning to do things in a certain way. And so let me phrase that a little bit differently. Your ability to choose opportunity, to pick the right company, to learn internet marketing or whatever, okay? That doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is doing things in a certain way, which you're going to learn over the 17 weeks of this course. If you are now in business and anyone else in your locality is getting rich in the same business while you are not getting rich, it's because you're not doing things in the same way that the other person is doing them. No one is prevented from getting rich by lack of capital. In fact, referencing that book one more time, Felix says the person most likely to get rich is the person that is dead broke. They're the hungriest and they have the least to lose. Whereas the senior executive has so much to lose, they're not willing to risk. Now, some of you listening to this are in senior management positions. I know that. And you've got one foot on first, trying to get to second, and you know what? It's impossible. Now, I'm not telling you this so that you go and, quit your job tomorrow. I'm not saying that. But you want to understand, are you operating out of fear or faith? When I left corporate America, I was, at the time supporting 2 kids, right? I had full health benefits and was making around $80,000 a year. And I left to make a guaranteed zero. I jumped into my real estate business. Guaranteed zero, no benefits. Everyone told me I was crazy. It was the greatest decision I ever made, because it is then when I learned I was meant to be rich and I would become rich. I knew it. And that was a fork in the road for me. Right now, you would not be listening to this audio if I didn't make that decision. I would not have been able to impact anybody in the home business arena and network marketing and, self-improvement, motivationally. Never would have coached anybody. Never would have had any of these experiences to help people around the world. It was that decision. I had something to lose, but I was looking at the gain. I was operating out of faith, not fear. Understand that when you have something to lose, most people are operating out of fear. And so no one is prevented from getting rich by lack of capital. True, as you get capital, the increase becomes more easy and rapid, but one who has capital is already rich and does not need to consider how to become so. No matter how poor you may be, if you begin to do things in a certain way, you will begin to get rich and you will begin to have capital. The getting of capital is a part of the process of getting rich. and it is a part of the result which invariably follows the doing of things in a certain way. You may be the poorest person on the continent and be deeply in debt. You may not have friends, influence, or resources, but if you begin to do things in this way, you must infallibly begin to get rich. For like causes must produce like effects. If you have no capital, you can get capital. If you're in the wrong business, you can get into the right business. If you're in the wrong location, you can go to the right location. And you can do so by beginning in your present business and in your present location to do things in the certain way which causes success. Some delicious words. Some delicious words this week. Very, very powerful. So let's get into your assignment. You know, I've found that you cannot bring out of the darkness anything that you're not willing to shine a light on. Sound a little cryptic? Well, let me tell you what that means. What your assignment is I want you to identify each and every instance that you have any inclination, okay? And this is for your benefit, not me. No one will see this assignment. So be honest. You are your own doctor, so don't lie to yourself. I want you to create a list of all the possible reasons why you believe you may fail to get rich. Okay? I want you to make that list. I want you to own it. I want you to understand what exactly you've been telling yourself subconsciously, what exactly you've been telling others consciously on why you don't have success. And let me help you out with this list. Number one, the number one reason people say they can't get rich is lack of capital. So if you've ever in your journey to get rich have ever said, if only I had money, or if, or you know what, man, I'd love to, but I just don't have the money. Or if you think it takes money to make money, which has been proven untrue many, many times, I want you to write that down. And I want you to write it down in a very specific way. Because what we're doing is we're programming you for change. I want you to write down, in the past, I have stated that lack of capital was a reason for my non-success. And I want you to use that same structure for every single excuse you can come up with. And be honest. If you ever want to change your life, you got to change your vocabulary. You got to change your language patterns. And so anything that is undesirable to you, I want you to use in the past. Okay? So in the past, I used to state that a lack of health prevented me from having success. Well, look at Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking has built, an empire. And I would not suggest that he's in the best health possible. Right? If you don't know Stephen Hawking, he wrote A Brief History of Time, which is only 150,000 times over my head. I tried reading it. I'm like, what? I ended up partially cross-eyed. In the past, I used to state this was my reason for non-success. I want you to own it. You see, if you bring this to the surface, maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's because you had kids when you were early. Maybe it's because you're a single mom. Maybe it's because you've been working 3 jobs. Maybe it's because you don't have any time. Maybe it's because your parents got separated. Maybe it's because your parents didn't support you. Maybe it's because you came from a poor background. Maybe it's because you didn't finish high school, or finish college, or finish grade school. Maybe it's because you're black. Maybe it's because you're white. What are the different excuses you've been using throughout your life, throughout this journey, to justify why you're not where you want to be? This may be the most powerful exercise you ever do. Because when you shine light upon these dark seeds of Satan, that's right, they are evil. The excuses that are spewed from people's mouths keep them in poverty, keep them in lack, keep them in limitation. Identifying them. You see, if you don't identify them, you'll keep using them. In the past, I used to state that when I lived in this country or lived in this part of the area, I was so much happier and had so more of anything. In the past, I used to state ... By the way, you can use that for anything you want to change. In the past, I used to say I was fat. In the past, I used to say I was a slow learner. In the past, I used to say I lacked creativity. Take this exercise seriously, and it can absolutely change your life. This is Ray Higdon from week number 2 of the Get Rich Blueprint. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.